I have never in my life seen such strategic genius as I saw on the stage yesterday with Trump and Bibi Netanyahu as they proposed a peace plan, and they completely flipped the script on everything that we have seen up until this point. And no, I'm not saying this is clickbait. I am saying this because I am completely in shock by the genius of the new strategy that they're doing and that nobody seems to have noticed. It's kind of just escaped everybody's eyes. And whilst everyone's talking about, but wait, have Hamas accepted this agreement? Are they going to accept it? That's not what's really going on here. This is much more complicated, and it is absolutely top-notch level strategy, A game by Bibi and Trump, who once again prove themselves to be the supreme political manipulators, leaders, what you want to call them, of ever, in my opinion. And we are going to talk about all of it. What is actually going on behind the scenes? What was this sudden proposed, unbelievably utopian peace plan that Hamas hasn't yet agreed to? And who are they really trying to pressure in today's episode? And obviously, we are going to watch Netanyahu's statement because once again, he proves himself to be just the most supreme and wonderful orator and really understands everything that needs to go on. We'll dive into what's going on here in Israel, who supports this, who's against this, why they're for it, why they're against it, and all the details that you need to know about this proposed Trump peace plan. Oh, my friends, it is better than we could have ever imagined. But first, have you liked, commented, subscribed? Have you checked out our merch on our website, meirk.com? You already know. meirk.news is where you can receive our amazing weekly newsletter that comes out to the public, telling you everything that's going on in Israel and analysis and all the most important things. But as we have told you 100 times before, 85% of you are not subscribed to the channel, and then we need you to subscribe. Like, we actually need you to subscribe so this channel can really, really grow. And if you like what we're doing, and if you like the commentary that we're providing, and if you like the analysis and the thoughts and everything that's going on in this radically rational commentary, which should just become the mainstream way that we consume information, then please share the word, spread the word, do what you need to do to help us grow. I so appreciate it. But first, let's just dive in. So we'll start a little bit with some of what they said. Okay? What was Trump's plan? What is this actual plan?
Mr. President, first I want to thank you for graciously hosting me once again in the White House. And second, I want to thank you for your friendship and for your leadership.
Yep.
From Jerusalem to Tehran, from the Golan Heights to Gaza, you've proven time and again what I've said many times. You are the greatest friend that Israel has ever had in the White House. And Mr. President, you and I both know it's not even close. While you focus at home on making America great again, your leadership abroad is changing the world for the better, ending wars and advancing peace. I believe that today we're taking a critical step towards both ending the war in Gaza and setting the stage for dramatically advancing peace in the Middle East. And I think beyond the Middle East, in very important Muslim countries. I support your plan to end the war in Gaza, which achieves our war aims. It will bring back to Israel all our hostages, dismantle Hamas's military capabilities, end its political rule, and ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel.
Okay, important. Here he is noting and describing all of the war goals, okay? Like all the things that we have said. And he's basically making it sound like this is a done deal. And this is number one of the most significant strategy that we've ever seen. Like, it's totally flipping its head on the game. And why is that? You see, what he's trying to say here is we need the hostages released, and we know Hamas are basically not going to do that, okay? There's only one way that we're going to get Hamas to do that, and that is not by us. Nothing that we've done up until this point has worked. You see, all threats on their life, irrelevant to them because they believe in jihad and they believe in this continuation of an ideology. And you can't really get rid of an ideology, but as long as they hold Hamas, as long as they hold the hostages, as long as Hamas hold the hostages, they have Israel in this deadlock because we care about the hostages. And so they can basically demand anything and everything of us. But he's talking about this peace plan as if it's already done. And we've seen very clearly from Hamas, who have basically said, no, we haven't even seen the peace plan. Like, we don't perceived as if it's real. We haven't even seen it. So this is strategy number one, talking about the peace plan as if it's already done. Because Hamas are watching this, and they're watching this very clearly. And they know that the entire world is looking at this and saying to themselves, oh, it's already complete. It's already there. And that puts Hamas in a little bit of a complicated situation. Let's keep on watching and I'll explain exactly why.
We would not have achieved this turning point without the courage and sacrifice of our incredibly brave soldiers. They fight like lions to defend the people of Israel, and they serve on the front line in the war between civilization and barbarism.
Yep.
Mr. President, when our two countries stand shoulder to shoulder, we achieve the impossible. Just a few months ago, in Operation Rising Lion and Operation Midnight Hammer, we struck a decisive blow against Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile program. Your bold decision to send those B-2s made the region safer and the world safer. Now, under your leadership, we're taking the next step to win the war and expand the peace.
Very intentional. Once again, what's he saying here? He's like, guys, we're talking here to a group. And you all might think that we're talking to Hamas and to the world. But actually, we're talking to Qatar. Okay? Now, why do I say this with a smile on my face? Because it's amazing and it's genius. From the beginning of the war, I have said something, and I have said it repeatedly. Qatar are the real problem. If Qatar wanted the hostages home, they would be home. If Qatar wanted all these pro-Palestinian protests and anti-Israel hate to stop, it would have stopped. They funded it, they're funneling it, and they are pushing it. And there's a reason that they put themselves at the head of negotiations. And nothing's happened. It's because they are loving every single second of this. Now, I'm willing to bet that behind the scenes, Bibi and Netanyahu and Donald Trump sat down and they said, okay, if we actually want to change this and we actually want to win and we actually want this war to end, we have to stop thinking about Hamas. We actually have to make Hamas completely irrelevant in this. We need to put the living fear into Qatar because they are the ones who actually hold the strings. We need to do that. And so this entire speech, if you actually watch it, and if you watch Trump's speech, which we're not going to watch here, but if you watch it, if you start to think about it as them trying to talk directly to Qatar as a threat, you start to see everything that's really going on here. He's saying, remember Iran and our attack? We mean it. Israel and the United States, we mean it. We will move forward with everything that we're doing. And who's he talking to? Again, he's not talking to Hamas, who are just radical jihadis. He's talking to Qatar, who have a much bigger plan in place. See, what do Qatar gain from Hamas? Why are they funding Hamas? Why are they part of these negotiations? The whole world right now is focusing so much on Hamas and on the Palestine conflict that no one is actually paying attention to Qatar, the people funneling it. You know when you watch a movie and there's a bad guy and you're never sure who the bad guy is? So I have a rule, and my husband always says to me, how do you know? How do you know who the bad guy is going to be always? Because I can tell him within the first 25 minutes who the bad guy is. And I have a very simple strategy, which will ruin all movies for you. You see, the movie is going to lose all suspense if they haven't presented the character who's going to end up being the bad person, right? You need to know which characters they are. So you're always looking for the character that's the most unassuming, the character that you keep saying to yourself, no, it can't be him. The more you think to yourself, no, it can't be him, he's just in the shadows, the more the chances are that that is actually the problem. You've been introduced to him, but you don't think about him. That is almost always the formula for who the bad guy is. And that's what's going on here. Who's the character that we've seen continuously throughout all of the negotiations and the discussions that has kind of sat quietly on the side, but is really the propagator of all the problems here? It's Qatar. They've been the one hosting Hamas. They're the ones funding all the anti-Israel protests. They're the ones funding Hamas behind the scenes. They're the ones not actually getting the hostages home. And so Trump and Netanyahu have shifted strategy completely. Instead of trying to talk to Hamas and convince Hamas, they start to think to themselves, how can we convince Qatar? And the way to convince Qatar is to push them into a corner. To push them into a corner, to make it sound like it's a done deal. It's done. This deal is done. So Qatar will look like complete idiots if they can't pull the deal. And to stop talking to Hamas. To make it seem like this is a no-brainer. and to come after what Qatar fears most, sovereignty of their own land, and most importantly, exposure of the fact that they are the problem. So now that Trump and Netanyahu are up there saying, our soldiers are brave, we're going to keep doing this, we are totally united in our front, we've played this kind of big thing where we've called the leadership of Qatar to apologize for the call. Actually, what they're doing is intentionally backing Qatar right into a corner so that Qatar, instead of being humiliated publicly in front of the whole world and put into a situation where they can't prove that they need to prove that this whole thing can be pulled through. They're now being watched by everybody as Trump and Bibi get up there and say, oh yeah, the deal's basically closed. We've got the peace plan. It's here. And if Qatar can't pull through, they're in to be publicly humiliated like nobody's business.
Your plan is consistent with the 5 principles my government set for the end of the war and the day after Hamas. Everybody asks, what is your plan for the day after Hamas? Here's our plan. Pass it in the cabinet. All our hostages, both those who are alive and those who died, all of them will return home immediately.
You see, remember, Hamas have zero incentive to do this. But who do now have incentive? Qatar, who didn't have incentive before. Because now they're being told, look, we're going to present this enormous, beautiful peace plan that the whole world wants, a change in Gaza, the beginning of this Middle East that everybody's dreamed of. And the keys are in the hand of Qatar. So one of the main things is that Qatar has to get the hostages back, not Hamas. We're not even talking to them anymore. We've moved on, which should have been the strategy from the very beginning. But they're now saying this plan involves all of our goals, making Qatar the ones who have to figure out how to get those Hamas leadership that are sitting in a room in Qatar to agree to it, because they know that Netanyahu will come after them properly. They'll come after the soil. They saw what happened in Iran and they understand that Netanyahu and Trump mean business. So goal number 1, get the hostages home. Hamas are never going to do it. But Qatar, they might succeed in pulling the strings.
Hamas will be disarmed.
Who can do that? Well, Qatar, because if they want there to be any future of Hamas, any of it at all, they can say to them, just put your weapons down for a little bit. We'll negotiate a good way for you to get out. By the way, that's part of the deal. Part of the deal is Hamas saying, us basically giving amnesty to any Hamas soldier who wants, saying if you give up your arms, you'll go free. What does that even mean? That's ridiculous for Israel. But again, that's something that Qatar can negotiate with. And that's exactly how Netanyahu and Bibi are thinking about this. What can we put on the table to put Qatar into the corner that we need them in? Does that mean that that any of the rest of the deal is going to move forward? We don't know. But right now, if we want to actually get the hostages home, this is the only way to do it.
Gaza will be demilitarized. Israel will retain security responsibility, including a security perimeter for the foreseeable future. And lastly, Gaza will have a peaceful civilian administration that is run neither by Hamas nor by the Palestinian Authority.
Look, we know that the biggest issue that we have with this whole thing is the Palestinian Authority and Hamas leadership of Gaza in the future. But again, think about how this backs Qatar into a corner. Trump and Netanyahu are saying, guys, you've managed to build very successful societies. Look at Qatar, look at Saudi Arabia. Why don't we put the responsibility for that on you? We want it to look very peaceful, so you guys should do it. Let's make that happen. Oh my God, it's genius. It's so good.
If Hamas agrees to your plan, Mr. President, the first step will be a modest withdrawal, followed by the release of all our hostages within 72 hours.
If Hamas agrees to your plan, this small caveat, which is the biggest thing, right? If Hamas agrees to your plan, they're no longer actually talking to Hamas. They're just saying to Qatar, if Hamas do this.
The next step will be the establishment of an international body charged with fully disarming Hamas and demilitarizing Gaza. I appreciate your willingness to lead the body, Mr. President. I really appreciate it because you have a lot of things to do, and this is important. And it reflects the confidence that this will give everyone, that things will be followed up on all the commitments made. The fact that you're taking this on, I think, helps a lot to make sure that everything flows in the direction that we want.
Look how Netanyahu's saying, I'm stepping out of this. Qatar don't like me, but who do Qatar really fear? They fear Trump. They know he means business. Netanyahu's saying, I'm washing my hands of this. Trump, This is yours. This is yours. But who's watching this? Qatar. And they're thinking to themselves, oh my God, if Trump runs this, we're going to have to actually align. Oh no. Oh no.
Now, if this international body succeeds, we will have permanently ended the war.
If this international body will succeed, we will permanently ended the war. The whole world's calling for the end of the war. That's what they're saying. And this international body can only come into existence if Qatar broker it. So Qatar, you're going to be publicly humiliated. We're moving ourselves away from this. We're now saying this is yours. This is yours. This is yours. You're going to be publicly humiliated. If you fail, you better not fail. Think about it from that perspective, and it changes everything.
Israel will conduct further withdrawals linked to the extent of disarmament and demilitarization, but will remain in the security perimeter for the foreseeable future. I think we should understand that we're giving everybody a chance to have this done peacefully, something that will achieve all our war objectives without any further bloodshed. But if Hamas rejects your plan, Mr. President, or if they supposedly accept it and then basically do everything to counter it, then Israel will finish the job by itself.
What he's saying here right now, and I want to be clear about this, he's saying, Qatar, you either have a chance, he's not talking to the president of America, he's talking to Qatar. You either have a chance to maybe salvage a little bit of your dignity left, get the hostages home, and be seen as the purveyors of peace in the Middle East, which is something that Qatar want more than anything, because Netanyahu and Trump are trying to use Qatar's own flaws against them, which is they want to be seen as the people who made peace. And right now, they're not being seen as that. They're being seen as these like mediators. But if they can get all the hostages home, if they can do that and end the war, then they will really be seen as this big player, which is what they've been vying for all along, so that nobody will notice that they're actually really the group behind terror. Now, there's flaws in this strategy, big flaws, because why would we want to give Qatar the pleasure of being actually seen as a peaceful group when they're not? That's upon us, upon the media personalities, to be able to call out Qatar and remind the world that they're actually evil. But for Trump and Netanyahu, their goals right now are very clear. We need to move out of where we're at. We need to get the hostages home. And the only way to do that is to get Qatar, once again, to make the change. And so what he's saying here right now is, look, we're going to give up on the hostages if you don't succeed in this deal. That's what he's saying, and that's heartbreaking. And let's pray that we don't get there. But it's a gamble in the chess game. It's a very, very strategic move. You, Qatar, want the world to see you as the purveyors of peace? Well, let's see you get these hostages home, because if not, we were just going to give up on the final thing that we've cared about, and we are going to go all in. Now, if that's true or if it's a bogus claim, I don't know. We haven't actually seen Netanyahu pull forward with this at any point, really, throughout the war. But it could potentially happen, because we know how much pressure there's from America to just end this thing. And the only way to end this thing is either to give up on the hostages or to get the hostages home. That's one of the two. That's the two strategies. And so they're hoping that the manipulation will work on Qatar.
This can be done the easy way, or it can be done the hard way. But it will be done.
There you go.
We prefer the easy way, but it has to be done. All these goals must be achieved, because we didn't fight this horrible fight, sacrifice the finest of our young men to have Hamas stay in Gaza and threaten us again and again and again with these horrific massacres. Mr. President, I was encouraged by your clear statement at the UN against the recognition of a Palestinian state. That would be an outcome that, after October 7th, would reward terrorists, undermine security, and endanger Israel's very existence. As for the Palestinian Authority, I appreciate your firm position that the PA could have no role whatsoever in Gaza without undergoing a radical and genuine transformation. In your 2020 peace plan, which you mentioned just now, you made clear what that transformation requires. It's not lip service. It's not checking a box. It's a fundamental, genuine, and enduring transformation. And that means ending pay to slay, changing the poisonous textbooks that teach hatred to Jews, to Palestinian children, stopping incitement in the media, ending lawfare against Israel at the ICC, the ICJ, recognizing the Jewish state, and many, many other reforms.
Here, by the way, he's not talking to Qatar anymore. He's talking to the Israeli people because he knows that when he comes home, he's in trouble potentially. Okay, so let's just give some backstory to this because I think this is important and significant to understand. Netanyahu is always playing two chess games. He's playing the international chess game and the internal chess game because politics in Israel is very precarious. They can just fall apart at any moment. And he right now has a little bit of a problem internally. Whilst externally, obviously, we've got the massive PR struggle, etc. He's trying to figure out how to end the war and to gain public favor again and to deal with all the sanctions and Qatar, etc. But that's a different question completely to keeping his government together. And his government, if it wants to stay and if it's not going to fall into election soon, demands that Smotrich, who is the Minister of Finance, stays within the government. And Smotrich has made it very, 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 very clear that it is non-negotiable for him and non-negotiable for his entire part of the cabinet to stay in government if the PA have even a little bit of a say in the future of Gaza. He's just not going to stay in his government, which means that Netanyahu could potentially be facing elections in February if this deal goes through. That's significant because Netanyahu doesn't want to move straight into elections. If he wins this, if he gets the hostages home, that's the winning ticket for the next elections, that he can move forward into the Abraham Accords. And God save us if we have the likes of Lapid, the left-wing people, etc., in government when we are supposed to be moving into peace deals with Trump. Now, there's a reason that last night, after this announcement, the left-wing people all celebrated. Okay, they all came out saying this is amazing peace plan, because they know that if the peace plan goes forward, there's a very, very high chance that Netanyahu's government actually falls apart, which is why the stakes on this are so enormous. Netanyahu bringing the hostages home is actually a left-wing win. It is not where the majority of the right-wing people place themselves. Okay, they believe the war needs to be won and Hamas needs to be destroyed over the hostages coming back. And this is complicated. You know, there's the whole hostage forum. There's this kind of but there's two hostage forums. I don't know how many people are familiar with this. You've got Forum Tikva, which is the right-wing group, which believe, no, we don't give anything back in exchange for the hostages. We just fight till the point where they have to give everybody back in one fellow swoop. And you've got the left-wing hostage group, which is actually using the hostages in the most cynical way to be anti the government and to bring Netanyahu down. There's a reason that after the statement went public, most of the left people, not all of them, most of the left people came out celebrating this deal. Okay, there's some fringe extremists who didn't, but most of them came out celebrating this. But what's interesting enough is that there's a lot of people on the right who are also celebrating this. And that's where it's interesting, because I obviously lean more towards the right. I like to think of myself as just centrist, who's able to see clearly and not really an extreme right or extreme anything, just kind of more the middle group who thinks, you know, that the hostages obviously need to come home, but we shouldn't do that at expense of future hostages, etc. But currently, a lot of people in the right-wing group are saying if we can get all the hostages home and actually move towards a peace plan, then that would be wonderful. We would love that. However, if the Palestinian Authority is going to be involved even in the slightest, we all know what that means. Everybody in the right-wing movement in Israel knows what that means, which is why he's saying this right now. Because it could be potentially that when he comes home, despite this massive success, if they can pull off this deal, that his government might fall apart. And that's what we are watching very, very closely here, just on an internal level. And that's why he's designated such an enormous part of the speech to calling out the Palestinian Authority and to reminding all of the people who are putting a lot of pressure on him here internally, don't worry, I will not allow for the Palestinian Authority to be involved unless there is a change. And this is why he's focusing on that now. Constant game of two chesses, internal and external.
It won't come as a surprise to you that the vast majority of Israelis have no faith that the PA Leopard will change its spots. But rather than wait for this miraculous transformation, your plan provides a practical and realistic path forward for Gaza in the coming years, in which Gaza will be administered neither by Hamas nor the Palestinian Authority, but by those committed to a genuine peace with Israel. I think this can be not only a new beginning for Gaza, I think it can be a new beginning for the entire region. Under your leadership, we can re-energize, well, I've got to contribute my own, we can re-energize the Abraham Accords. That's what it's called in the original Hebrew. Abraham. Abraham is fine. Abraham, however you want to call it. Under your leadership, Mr. President, we can re-energize the Abraham Accords that we forged 5 years ago. We can expand them to many more Arab and Muslim nations that choose moderation over extremism. I think there's an opportunity here.
He's talking to Qatar. We're going to expand the Abraham Accords. Moderatism versus extremism. Which one are you going to choose? And the way to get this, this massive peace deal and economic prosperity, and the whole world's watching as we make this declaration, despite the fact that Hamas have not agreed to this deal, is if you, Qatar, pull your weight. Pull your weight, guys. Pull your weight.
It's not going to be easy. It's tough going. But I think if we succeed, you're absolutely right. We're going to open possibilities that nobody even dreamed of. But I think we dream of them. As you've told me, Mr. President, and you've told the world many, many times, you said, remember October 7th. Remember October 7th. And we do. We will never forget the horrors of October 7th, and we will do whatever is necessary to make sure they don't happen again. Since October 7th, Israel's enemies have learned a hard truth. Those who attack us pay a heavy price, but those who partner with us advance progress and security for their peoples.
Speaking to Qatar.
President Trump just said it. It's also in the Bible. It says, those who will bless you will be blessed, and those who will curse you will be cursed. And that's actually what is happening. We want the blessings. I think we've done a lot in the past 2 years to end the curse. We're not finished, but we've done a lot. And we've done a lot together to end the curse. I want to thank your entire team for their efforts to get to this point. I especially want to thank...
Okay, he's going to go into the thanking so we can stop there. But again, the genius of this, it all ends and begins with Qatar, the big player, and Netanyahu and Trump are finally changing their tune. Yes, I know, we didn't delve into the actual details of the deal, and I'll tell you why. It's intentional. Because I think that if we get there, if Hamas actually agrees to this deal and the hostages are released, we will talk about the detail of the deals to no end. But what we're seeing here is actually irrelevant. The details of what actually will happen, we'll play them out. What we're seeing is a masterful strategic shift in how they're manipulating the media and how they are constructing and talking to Qatar, which, as we've said from the very beginning, they are the key players here. They're not the mediators. They're not the silent, nice group. They're the funders. They're the brains. They're the protectors. They're the thing that is keeping Qatar and Hamas going. And they are the people that are now being spoken to. And that is the shift. On a personal level, the idea of the war actually being over feels almost utopian. As somebody who's suffered through it for the last 2 years and who has just felt the immense toll of just going through a war and wanting the hostages home and wanting all the men back, I can't say enough how much on a personal level I want it. Do I think it's the right way and the right strategy? Look, if this utopian plan of prosperity and this Gaza becoming a no-tax zone and, you know, an economic forum and being run by Tony Blair, so random, and President Trump, and we can remove all terror, I think it's absolutely wishful thinking. But allow me, indulge me. I'm going to be a little bit wishful right now. Maybe there's a chance of that. Maybe there's a chance of a little bit of freedom. That would be nice. That would feel good, I think, for all of us, to hope that there is some chance of freedom. Gazans being allowed to leave, but also to be able to come back if they want, so we're not forcing them out. The whole plan is very, very utopian. But again, remember, this is not about the plan. This is about shifting the pressure away from Hamas and taking the cause out of their hands and saying to Qatar, look, you guys have a chance to make it or break it. And my friends, Qatar does not like to fail on the public stage. They do not. And that's why last night was one of the most amazing things I have ever seen happen on a political stage. And kudos to whoever came up with this. It is genius. So, we don't know what will happen. We don't know what the next stages are. We don't know. Maybe the hostages could be home in the next 2 days. That would be miraculous. Literally miraculous. And as we move into a new year, a new judgment, maybe God's decided to flip the cards on us. And how enjoyable that would be. But now, finally, we are starting to see the pressure where the pressure needs to be on Qatar. Do I think that this is the end of the story? No, I do not. I do not think that Qatar are going away so quickly. I think they have a long-term plan for taking over the world with Islamization, and we have to be very, very careful of it. But if we can use that to our advantage, as it seems that BB of Trump have decided to do, then I am all for it. Let's play the enemy, not just play directly into their hands. Thank you for your attention to this matter.